Peace. This is Fader Rock. MOR, Matches of Reality. TNR, the nation's roughest crew of scarce elements. G4, you know what it is. And you were tuned in to GFG TV. Yikes.
So episode 2, Asphate, we were breaking it down with Letter. Didn't mean to interrupt you, but you can continue on your story.
Yeah. So the long and short of it is that Maxilla Blue was going to perform in Chicago. There's going to be B-boys there. There's going to be some painting and graffiti going on there over on Crawford Steel. I can't remember the streets over there. I'm gonna butcher this. I know it ain't off of Kenzie. It's somewhere else, but everybody knows where Crawford Steel is at if you paint in Chicago. And it was me, him, Obi, Gabe, Max from the Wrecking Crew, which one of the few all minority crews out of Chicago. We all painted there together. And after that time frame of having doing that, me and Leonard just clicked up so heavy that ultimately I just ended up getting put down with the crew, and we just ain't never stopped. We've never stopped rocking. If for those who are in the NASCAR and shit like that, you get out to the Newton Speedway, the Iowa Speedway, the NASCAR and IndyCar joint out in Newton, that whole tunnel, me and Leonard did that ourselves. 200 by 14 foot.
That's crazy.
Yeah. The music, honestly, it would lead to that, I think. So the long and short of it is, I started. So my uncle, who was here off camera on studio, was the first head that was introducing me to shit like vinyl records when I was a little kid. I'm 5 years old. He's 9 years older than me. He leaves the room. He leaves the house to go be a teenager. I'm up in there trying to fuck with his Gemini turntable, his GLI mixer, his ColecoVision. I'm trying to hook up the Nintendo so I can play Mike Tyson's Punch Out. He didn't unhook it because he'll let me playing this shit, you know. But he was the first dude I seen that had I'm Bad from LL Cool J. Fucking Kumo D records, Big Daddy Kane records. He's the first tape I ever legally owned in my life was De La Soul. Rest in peace, True Boy. De La Soul's dead. You know, with Udo's of O's, you know. You get them from your sister, you get them from your bro. That shit, right? That tape was the first tape I wore out, and he gave that to me. My mom was super eclectic with music and shit too. She was like one of the motherfuckers that had like hundreds of CDs when CDs just first came out. You know what I'm saying? And she had me listen to everything from Simon and Garfunkel to Tracy Chapman to, Suzanne Vega to pop. You know, she heavy deep, like all that sort of thing. So I was always really heavy into all that sort of action. But I would say the first time I tried to rap out my mouth, for real, was probably 6th grade. We got a little Emerson recorder and a homeboy with a keyboard and shit. You know what I'm saying? Everybody doing that sort of action. 10th grade in Indianapolis is where I learned the art of like real heavy, like freestyle, like tenacity type action. And that's where that same school I was talking about, it was so big that our gym in the morning around 7:30, there'd be about 50 heads that would show up right there. And it's cycle time, right before school starts. We got 20 minutes before school starts. And you get to see like who really won a cypher, who's really on that, you know what I mean? Motherfuckers later on, you talk to them at lunch, you'd be like, man, it was going off in the circle, where was you at? It's like, oh man, I was in the back, I was trying to get through there. I was like, man, you weren't trying to get through there. Niggas ain't that heavy. You know, you could have, if you wanted to get through there, you would have got through there. And that was a spot, a location where I just met some of the illest, like off the top heads and freestylers and shit like that. And y'all know Supernatural's from Indiana too. Anyway, so I got real heavy into just straight up off the top battling around that time frame, and that was my thing. Fast forward, I end up in Iowa. Me and a few other heads formed this little group. I'm like 18, 19. It's called Supervillains. We're in Fort Dodge. It's me, my boy Sean Smith, the homeboy P Double, who incidentally is the nigga that was yelling, "Get him, Dre! Get his ass, Dre!" when I was fighting his cousin on the court. And my homeboy P. That was one of those instances of selling like fucking 200 CDs out of your fucking trunk and like actually doing it, you know what I'm saying? And when you do that and you're printing, you're literally going over to homeboys, cousins, auntie's crib to use her old ass printer and burning all her inkjets. Every one of them. She's screaming, she's getting pissed off as you leaving the house, like carrying all the CDs and you done printed, and the last few CDs they extra light or they change the colors and shit. You done fucked their printer up, but you getting up out that bitch, right? That was back in that time frame, printing your own cover, you printing all that sort of shit. And you know that first time, you probably have that feeling. You know, when you successfully sell, even just a meager amount, you know what I mean? 50 fucking CDs at $10 a pop, $500 to an 18, 19-year-old off of music.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay, hold on. And I always fancy myself like an actual MC. Like I took it seriously, like the art of yeah, I could say this, but everyone would say this. Why would I rhyme miracle with lyrical? Why would I do that? Yeah. Why would I say I'm up in the sky like a rocket? Why would I ever do that? You know what I'm saying? Because someone else is already going to tell that tale. Why would I not defend Iowa? There's already going to be a whole bunch of motherfuckers who dick ride other places and act like they're ashamed to be here. Why would I take up that role? It's like that, right? Anyway, so then I end up here in Des Moines because of Grandview. Coming out of Grandview, there's me and there's a homeboy that both hooped together. He was from Chicago. His name was Shaul. Together we formed what was called the Gutter Brothers. At that time, we first connected with DJ Episode, who at the time was what you call an industry DJ. And a lot of people aren't aware of what an industry DJ was at the time. So I would show up to Episode's house. This was like 4-ish, 5-ish. 4 or 5 leading into 6. So I would show up at Episode's house and he'd have crates and boxes of records covering all of his front porch. And when you looked at him, you'd see Arista, you see Tommy Boy, you see RCA, you see Def Jam. Because as an industry DJ, basically what was happening is labels at that time frame were sending tons and tons of records, free records, to the industry DJs in certain areas and saying, hey, would this rate in your market? Could this actually chart? We got a new artist coming out. Their name is such and such. Here's 4 free records, 2 for your club, 2 for you to have at home from this record label. All we want from you is your feedback on, can this chart there? And should we bring an artist through there? That's how shit used to work back in the day, right? But it only worked with, only so many DJs reached that status where that would be happening, right? So I got hella fucking like doubles off that cat. And I always, I had some turntables that I carried with me and all and type of shit from move to move. Me and Shaul were working with Ep, and we really felt like, dude, that was going to be the thing. You know, we was really kind of getting busy, and that's when I first started doing shows in and out of town, but mainly just within Iowa still. Well, the long and short of it is, over time, I got tired of the hype of us. I wanted us to release a fucking album, you know? And heads kept being like, dude, when's the Gutter Brothers coming out? When's the Gutter Brothers coming out? And we do this show here, and this show here, and this show here, but there wasn't no album. And one thing I've noticed about a lot of artists, although the times have changed now, so doing a single now or building your presence off a single now is different than it was back then. Now it's the thing to do, right? But back then it's like, if you only have mixtapes and don't have no album, you haven't taken the plunge into like definitively representing yourself as an MC and as an artist.
Motherfuckers don't take you all the way serious.
Yeah. Because it's like, dude, if you made that beat, which is already a hit, sound dope with your freestyle over it, there's already a blueprint for it to be dope. But when you create an album and you choose all the beats, if the audience doesn't like those beats, you were essentially saying to them, this was my selection, this was my thought process, I thought this was dope, and I thought it paired with my MCing would make it even more dope. You gotta own that whole thing if it sucks. So we used to talk shit about motherfuckers who like, you know, you got mixtapes, nigga, where your albums at? Well, we didn't have no album. And I got tired of going on to the second year and this, that, or whatever. So as that happened, I got introduced to Aeon Gray.
Hello.
Right. Who was working with Gadima and other heads here. They had done Babel Section and some other shit, and I always loved it.
Through Episode that you met him?
Yeah, Episode took me over there to record with him one day.
Okay, I just want to know how that connected.
Yeah, he took me over there to record with him one day.
So you're working with Episode at that time.
Yeah.
And
Episode fancied himself a maestro. Like he really, I wanted him to DJ behind us. Because we were of the mindset where, dude, you don't come and fucking play some CD with instrumentals on it. You don't play no laptop. You have a DJ. Everything begins, ends with a DJ, right? So I wanted a real DJ, but F kind of, he was like, man, no, man, you know, I played with Premiere, I've done this, that, whatever. He kind of saw himself, he did it for 1 or 2 shows, but I think he kind of seen himself as a little bit above backing us as our DJ, but still wanted to kind of have the hands-on in terms of, y'all should do this. And y'all need a B-side. Y'all got this song for the A-side for a vinyl record, Fate, but what's going to be the B-side? Well, he kept asking about what's gonna be the B-side for months and months on end. And meanwhile, I'm like, motherfucker, like, we ain't got no joint out. So when I met with Aeon, and he had some ill beats, and I knew I just like to rhyme the ill shit. One day he was like, man, we should do an album, all my beats, all your rhymes. Maxilla Blue was born. You know, and we before we got too heavy into moving around, we added touch. That was 06 when Easy Flow, Good Flow, Bad Flow in the Water first got written, MASH first got written, all those joints. That album dropped in 2008, which is where you might get that year from. Yeah. But by that time, we had already been like maybe doing shows in like Sioux Falls, South Dakota, Vermilion, South Dakota.
You've been touring.
Yeah, well, we didn't do our first we didn't do a first tour until after the release of Maxilla Blue Volume 1. And that tour is, like when I see what you do, Ray and them are doing, even active right now, and they got shit and they're getting busy here in Kansas, and they come back here, and then they're rocking here. A lot of heads may look at that and scoff at that, but they don't understand that is necessary pedigree building to be able to say that you actually do this thing. You know the toil of like, damn, they out to rock 3, 4, 5 days in a row. Yes, you know. In 2008 was the first time we went. We did what I refer to as setting up your own tour, because we set up 7 dates. I think the 2 of them fell through. In the middle of the joint, another one fell through, and so it ended up being 3 days going somewhere, right? Yeah. So I wouldn't even call that a tour, right? It wasn't until later that like I'm hitting a West Coast joint with G4 or East Coast joint with Gray Skull and shit like that. But I think that's important for heads to go through a time frame of trying to set your own tour up. Yeah. See what that's like. See what it's like knowing you more raw than motherfuckers in this area, but when you hit Chicago and you're hitting these venues up and you're like, hey, we're gonna be there. We're gonna be in this area Wednesday. Can we come and do this and stuff, whatever? And motherfuckers is like, well, you could, but there's 20,000 motherfuckers from here that already right here. Like, why would we have y'all motherfuckers come from Iowa, right, the potato state, right, and come and pay y'all to come do this? You know what I'm saying?
That hits so close to home when you say that.
But you see what I'm saying? So we had to go through all of that. Mm-hmm. So you can imagine eventually when I got to a point where we're showing and proving, and we're rocking with Rakim, we're rocking with Naughty by Nature, we're rocking with Ghostface, we're rocking with Sheik Luch and shit like that. And in some of these areas and shit, we're trashing motherfuckers. We trash Dots Effects. Killed them. These niggas for getting their shit. We blasted their ass right off the fucking stage. Trashed. Niggas out there threatening to not even play. This is in Illinois. Threatening to not even play because the nigga left his rhyme book at Wisconsin the night before. Nigga practice.
Know your shit.
Yeah, ain't a legend.
This is your music.
Right. So now you can understand how the shit developed on my shoulder.
But I want to continue on with my question. It isn't going to interrupt, and it's not going to take anything else. I stated that the 08, right, because we were speaking about color codes and the direction that started in 15, so 08. So we're going backwards a little bit here in your discography and how you got into music. When you released one, yeah, did you intend to release more? Was that with the reasoning to release more? And I don't want to know necessarily about the albums. Ray could go through that with you. But when you guys put together Maxilla Blue,
that's a good question.
Was it the reasoning to put out multiple projects?
So check it out. That's a good question, because our mindset, and one of the things that always kind of pushed Maxilla Blue was we ain't bound by shit. We ain't confined to nothing that no one's saying. When we came out with the first joint, we called it Maxilla Blue. Our intent was to call every record we came out with Maxilla Blue, if they ever happened, right? When the second record came out, we wanted to call it Maxilla Blue. We was like, dude, we don't give a fuck if people get confused. We don't give a fuck about this. We don't.
Right,
Motherfucker. If you into it, you gonna know. You gonna be like, no, I got the blue cover on, right, so I got the red cover on now. We didn't give a fuck about, you know, any of that other workaround shit, but we ended up having to bend to the bureaucracy of any industry, because if you're selling your shit and it's on Amazon and it's on iTunes, it's all this other sort of shit, they need some manner of being able to distinguish the UPCs. So then there has to be some sort of different name, which is the only reason we started calling shit Volume 2.
Right.
And then there was a Volume 3. So that's why the name of the albums are Volume 1, Volume 2, Volume 3. We're working on a joint right now that'll probably be Volume 4. Did we necessarily think that oh, we're gonna do this album next and do this album next. No, but we didn't think we weren't. And if you ever heard of bum rap, I think there's 2 different bum rap projects. Those were projects that were done because we were so like feisty and so like hungry. We had just released a Maxilla 1 record. It's like, what do we do? It's like, man, this shit, we up in a live boom. Just come off it. We, in 2 days' time, released a whole other project and dropped Bum Rap 1.
We're gonna slow down because you walking through the whole interview. So let's stick to the questions because you asked my questions before I get to you. I was saying,
did you know when you were
You know what I'm saying? I didn't even get to ask.
The first thing I texted Ray is
did you know when you were invited?
he's
The niggas walking through the whole
personality.
I let's try to stick to the questions because I'm gonna get into some of that.
Okay,
you know what I'm saying?
All right.
Let's try to stick more to the questions.
All right.
All right. For this one, let's go. So in 2008, the album released. The Maxilla Blue, the first one.
Yeah.
How do you feel the album was perceived locally?
I feel like it was perceived really well locally just because at that time we were seeing more people at venues like the Muse than we had seen before in other hip hop shows. At that time also, I'm a b-boy as well. Floor Spiders crew, longest standing active b-boy crew out of Des Moines. And I had started breaking in 06 and it took around to 07, 08 where I kind of got my legs, meaning I wasn't a toy anymore because we all start out as toys. And I ain't gonna lie to you, there's a couple times, we show up in Columbus, Ohio, and we breaking and we battling niggas, the Zulu Kings, nigga. I'm getting embarrassed, nigga. We went to Chicago or Ill Breaks or whatever. After our round, we just battled Self-X crew, and you just hear someone from the crowd, smoked! Letting you know, nigga, yeah, nigga, you just got smoked like that. You better get your weight up. Round 8, 9, what we were seeing happening at Maxilla Blue shows is the b-boys were coming out. Because I'm a b-boy, I got other heads that want to break, and so there's ciphers at every joint. And so more and more people started coming and becoming spectators because they hear there's this magical shit going on and people spinning on their heads and flipping upside down, doing all that sort of thing. And so the reason I even bring that up is because I want to actually be transparent and say to y'all, I can't even say it was 100% all just because of the music and the runs and the album, but it's everything that I think was brought to Maxilla Blue shows, right? Sometimes Floor Spiders crew travel with us. We go out of state, and so I would notice sometimes when heads would try to book our shows, they'd be like, yeah, and can you guys have will the B-boys be there? Will they do this, that, whatever? And I'm like, dude, you do know they don't fucking work for us, right? Like that ain't part of our act. Right? So the only reason I bring that up is because my answer to your question is I think it was received well. We had great support. I'd be lying if I didn't say I wonder if all of that was simply just because of the music or more because the total vibe that was being brought.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Is it true that today there is no featuring of any other vocal artists on any Maxilla Blue project?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And the funny thing is, that wasn't a deliberate thing, but it became a badge, right? It became a badge of honor. So to clarify for the audience, we looked up after having dropped Maxilla Blue Volume 1 and realized, hey, we didn't feature nobody on it. There's a couple heads here I fuck with, I might have fucking, that I would have deemed good enough to be on it, but when I realized that we did that whole thing and didn't need that, it felt like there was a special concoction that was going on with Aeon's beats, my rhymes, and Touch Nice's turntablism. And it felt like if we fucked with that chemistry at all, and the composition at all, it wouldn't be Maxilla Blue. So the second album, we did the same thing. The third album, we recorded out in San Francisco, and I remember there was a song, we ended up dropping that album as a split record between Galapagos 4, which if you all are familiar with legendary crews like Typical Cats, Stick Figures, Quell and Maker, that's our label mates in G4 and Galapagos out of Chicago. At the time, and that our label and that crew contains some of my favorite rappers on the planet, right, are in our crew. So there was a song on Maxilla Blue Volume 3 that I kind of wanted Quell to be on. Because I had heard that they were thinking at that time about fucking with us and putting us on G4 and that sort of thing. And I was like, man, I won't do this. And I remember Aeon in the studio. We was in San Fran. He was like, yeah, but we haven't done that up to date. Like, if we do that, will it really be Maxilla? And as much as I wanted to do that thing, I was like, motherfucker, when you right, you right. And there's a piece of me that also wanted to, we did 3 albums, didn't do no features. We don't need none.
Yeah.
So that is true, what you've asked.
Yeah.
And I think it'll just it'll remain the case.
So in 2010, Maxilla Blue had the best-selling local album at ZZ Records, I want to say. ZZZ Records.
Yeah.
Talk about that accomplishment. How did that feel?
It felt good because I'm a vinyl head. You know, we came out with that song Shovel Kids around that time. And that's on that particular album, Volume 2. And it's all about digging for records, being a vinyl enthusiast and that sort of thing. So it felt good because it pertained to vinyl. The sourcing of it was a local vinyl store we all supported.
Yeah.
I think we utilized footage from ZZZ in the video for Shovel Kids. So in that regard, it felt good inside. Now, realistically, that award is going to the best-selling local vinyl artist. So if you think about that from a mathematical standpoint, the only thing that's being considered in the pool is all artists who are putting things out on vinyl, who are going to that level. Well, that shrinks the pool quite a bit, just to be fair, right? Okay. So I'm not walking around on no clouds like, yeah, y'all little niggas, y'all don't know I was the special, you know what I mean? Yeah. Well, yeah, motherfucker, there might only been like 12 fucking groups in all Iowa. Some of them are rock groups, some of them are punk groups that have been doing this for the last seven years. Yeah. So do I wear it as like some sort of mantle that sets us above other motherfuckers? Yeah, but I know I shouldn't.
So in 2010, you guys also had a write-up in the Des Moines Register. In my opinion, that's huge, especially for being hip hop. You want to talk about that a little bit? No,
I think it's a little more huge was when Fifth Element, it's the record shop. At least it used to be owned, if not owned or founded by Rhymesayers out of Minneapolis. When they did when they had like a review of our third record, I thought that was some dope shit. Because historically, that crew, Rhymesayers, is very similar to ours, Galapagos 4. And there was a time frame back in the day when there was actually war or beef between the two. There's legend of Quelly, everyone's heard of the name Idea, and there's legends of Quelly having torched Slug and torched Idea in a backstage battle, and only so many people are privy to it and this sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And so in underground hip hop back in the day, in the late 90s sliding into the 2000s, there were people who picked a side. You either were with Rhymesayers or you were with Galapagos 4. By the time we got down with Galapagos 4, G4, to be quite honest with you, was just kind of fading out of its prominence. It doesn't have the same ring and the same output. These days, Rhymesayers, it's huge. It has everything from Atmosphere. MF Doom's been on there. Aesop's dropped something on there. Prof is doing his thing. Brother Ali and all these other heads. But I kind of took it as like, I feel like a Viking sometimes, dog, where it's like whatever crew you on that crew. It don't matter if it's 3 of y'all, it's 15,000 of them. Mm-hmm. And that's how I took that pride in being on some G4 shit. So the reason I bring that up to you, and the reason I say the Des Moines Register thing don't matter as much is just because sometimes you never know what the local, like the Register and shit and City View and shit like that is, why they're doing a thing or who's in a position to shine the spotlight on the certain heads that causes for that story or causes for that article. And sometimes I don't understand enough about what led to it, politics or not, that might make me buy into it or really cherish it. But when a record store who comes from a crew that historically has been the rival of our crew, it's all the way in Minneapolis, and the label we come from is all the way in Chicago, and they do a write-up on Little Low, Maxilla Blue from Iowa's Volume 3 record, that to me was a different thing. Absolutely.
That's huge. They didn't have to do that.
They didn't have to.
Here they want to shine spotlight.
Yeah, what else are they gonna do but pick someone here?
Yeah.
Right? So that doesn't mean I scoff at it or like it don't mean shit or that other people who get that recognition here shouldn't be happy about it. It's just that I don't, man. Nothing ordinary moves me really. I don't like no ordinary shit.
Yeah.
I really don't.
So what is the current state of Central Standard Records?
Man, you have to ask Aeon, dog. To be honest, this is a kind of interesting point in history. But when that Volume 3 record was happening, there was rumors and words that Rhymesayers was interested in us. We didn't know that for a fact, but there's rumors of it. All of a sudden, when there's an article being written on our album that year, and it's put out by their store in Indianapolis, it's under Rhymesayers, it kind of lended some credence to that. But frankly, I just always felt like a lot of those motherfuckers over there are soft, like emo rapper type shit, and I really don't think their shit is that ill. You know, like I just don't. You know, and we performed with some of those heads before in different places in different states, and see motherfuckers act like dickheads, and then they get up there and they're choking on their own fucking breath. You know. And so I always had sort of a chip on my shoulder of being like, fuck them, we gonna rock with it. It's like you used to talk about, say back in the day, like the villains in the movie. I'm like that. I want to be the underdog, the villains in the movie. So when Volume 3 was about to come out, there was rumors of this one big, well-known underground entity who might have interest in us, and then here were the villains in the movie, G4, who we fucked with and dug, and who was, you cannot be on G4 if your rhymes are not immaculate and your beats are not immaculate. You can't be on it. And so I wanted that. That created a bit of a divide between myself and Aeon at the time. Because Aeon wanted a little bit more. He kind of wanted, I don't want to say to be courted, but we were reaching a point where it was like, dude, all right, well, what are you going to give us, dude? If we're going to get down over there, how are you going to take care of us? What are you going to do for this and that? Can you guarantee us this? Can you guarantee us that? And I've always just been a motherfucker that's like, hey, motherfucker, let's rock. I'm let's rock. I give a fuck what a motherfucker is. So let's rock type of thing, right? I say all that to say, because of your question, we did a split release that year, and that was the first year that Maxilla Blue project was a split release between Central Standard, which is the label that Aeon Gray started here, and Galapagos 4, which is the Chicago label. After that happened, you know, Aeon was going through some personal life stuff and had some transitions in life and some other things that he went and took care of, handled business. And when that happened, I never stopped working because that's just how it was. That's how we went from the Gutter Brothers to Maxilla when I first started this whole story. Because here we are, episodes like, man, you need another record for the B-side. And I'm like, dude, what I need to do is put something out. Mm-hmm. I need to rock, and I need to keep putting something out because that's how my mind works. Yeah, so when that happened with that record, another Maxilla Blue record did not come out and has not come out to date. So that's why in between that time, I ended up putting out, man, I may be on like 4 or 5 vinyl records that occurred since that. 3 or 4.
Personal records that you've done individually?
Well, there's a few of them. There's Closed Doors to an Open Mind.
We'll get there.
Oh, okay. All right, my fault.
Well, before we dig into that, that's the end of episode 2. And to learn more, you're going to need to tune in to episode 3. We appreciate it.